Hey guys, welcome back to Mystifying Miracles. I'm Kristen, and every week, twice a week, I search out true stories that have mysterious elements a lot of times, and they always have at least one miracle. So if you like cool, true stories that have those mysterious elements and always end on a happy ending, listen along and we will get started. Now today, I thought it would be cool to do a bunch of mini stories. So I've got a handful of them. They're short, very short, but they're cool, true miracles. So I thought this will be something different. So listen along. The first story takes place on October 24th, 1993. Paul Rosen, he was 5 years old, and he actually fell out of his sixth floor apartment window, and that was in New York on the east side. Now, he did land on pavement, and when the paramedics came, they were amazed that this 5-year-old, he had no external injuries and no internal injuries. He was fine from falling at that high of a, window opening. One of the paramedics said it was like the angels caught him. I mean, this kid had no scrapes, nothing. Now, that was a quick, just little clip. Some of these other stories, they're a little bit longer, but still miraculous and very, very interesting. So our second story involves a woman named Janet Dean. Now, she had been cleaning, just that deep clean, her master bedroom, and that was located on the second floor of their home. And they lived in, I'm not sure if I pronounced this correct, Winona, New Jersey. Never heard of that city, but interesting nonetheless. So she was just deep cleaning, like I said, and she had opened her bedroom window. Now, as she took the sheets off the bed, she wanted to shake them out and the blankets and everything, I guess, dust and whatnot, and kind of hang them over, outside the window as she changed the new linens. So, of course, she took the screen off the window so she could do all that. Also, in front of the window was a wicker chair, and it was just, I guess, placed right there for maybe sitting and reading, who knows, but that's where the wicker chair was placed. So as Janet's doing her thing, her 2.5-year-old little girl named Deborah came running in, and she's running around playing with toys, yelling and laughing. She was very vibrant and full of energy. I guess most 2-year-olds are, though. So she was just doing her thing as her mom cleaned and changed the sheets. And right before Deborah's eyes, I mean, it happened so fast, little Deborah jumped up on that wicker chair, and it tumped out towards the window. And the story said, as that chair was tipping backwards, Janet watched. Like I said, so fast she couldn't even do anything, but she watched, and almost as if slow motion, I guess you could say, as little Deborah was hopping so fast up into that chair, the chair's tipping, and she saw Deborah go out the window. And she was falling head first. As that's happening, Janet just yells out, "God, help!" And then get this, guys. She said, like I said, the slow motion thing, she said it was almost as if slow motion. Little Deborah's feet stopped in the air. So the chair's tipping, little Deborah's going out the window, and the feet stop in the air, like slow motion. And Janet says that it was an impossible, just pause of time. Time stopped and stood still for a minute. And Janet said, quote, "As if a camera had just been reversed, Deborah came back through the window, feet first, and ended up in the chair." I'm trying to picture how that must have been. That is impossible, guys. Can you imagine seeing your child going out of the window and then all of a sudden time stops, feet stop, and then slowly reverses back into the chair? What put her back into the chair? What stopped her from going out that window? Was it an angel? I think it was God and or an angel, because Janet cried out, "Help." Man, I never experienced anything like that, like a pause of time. But that's miraculous right there. So right after, Janet scoops up little Deborah and's hugging her and crying and just so happy and probably just in shock, like, what did I just experience? What did I just see, And for a while it said, she questioned those things. How did this happen? Why? And she said after some time went by, Janet just stopped questioning. And she was like, miracle, hands down, that's it. End of story. This one, I had never heard a miracle like this as of yet. So this one really got me. Very cool, guys. Now, story number 3 involves a man named Jerry. Jerry was a tree trimmer. So he was used to getting up to tall heights, trimming branches, all that good stuff. And he actually ended up sharing this miraculous story of his with KKAR radio in Omaha, Nebraska. Well, on that day, he happened to be about 30 to 40 feet high up into the air, just trimming trees. And he happened to be sitting and placing himself like sitting on a long branch. And he had a chainsaw in his hand because he was cutting down a lot of those branches. Now, usually Jerry was very careful in checking for stability, before he steps or sits on anything high up in the air. But for some reason, this day he didn't. He didn't check it carefully. He just went about his work and sat on a branch and did his thing. Well, when he did that, he said immediately there was a cracking sound and the branch gave way. He began to fall face up, holding the chainsaw in front of him as he's falling. And he said that as that fall was happening, so many thoughts went through his head, like, do I drop the chainsaw? Am I going to land on another worker below me? Do I throw the chainsaw? Yet it was too heavy to throw. He said all those questions went through his mind, and he said, I know that sounds odd, because how does all that go through your mind when you're falling so fast, right? But he said he did. All those things went through his mind. Like, what do I do? And he said, quote, exactly what I said. He said, it seems odd that I weighed all those consequences during this fall. And as he was falling, he just decided to do nothing at all. So he didn't let go of the chainsaw. He doesn't remember doing that. He didn't throw it. He just said, okay, I'm falling. I'm just going to let it happen. Well, when he hit the ground, Jerry says it was as if he fell into a bunch of pillows. It wasn't hard at all. He said there was kind of like a small little bounce, but that was it. He laid there briefly in shock, like, what happened? Am I still alive? I'm sure that went through his mind. And when he finally got his thoughts together and he, came back to, so to speak, he stood up slowly and he was looking himself over. He didn't have not one bruise. He said his coworkers that were around him just kind of stared at him like confused. And so many questions like, how did he not have any broken bones? How did he not break his back? How did he not hit his head? And one other question, what happened to the chainsaw? Moments after that, Jerry could hear the blades whirring in the background somewhere of that chainsaw that he had been holding. He looked and he looked, and way across the way in like an empty area was the chainsaw. It was so far that it was impossible for him to have thrown it because that thing's heavy and he didn't have the strength, especially as he's falling. So how did it get all the way over there and get all the way over there without hitting anybody or cutting anybody? Now, he asked his coworkers and there were no witnesses that saw the chainsaw. They didn't say, oh, we saw it. It flew in the air way over there. No one saw it. No one saw it hit the ground. No one saw it fly. So very, very strange. Ooh, I got chills when I just said that. Jerry, he was able to go back to work that day. Like I said, he was fine. No one hurt. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't even aching or sore from that big of a fall. So he did. He went back to work and all was well. And he says, I stopped asking about the what ifs, the whys, kind of the same way with the other story where Janet and her little girl, he was like, I stopped doing all that because plain and simple, it was a miracle. Our next story takes place in Lander, Wyoming, and it involved a couple named Jared and Margie Nessett. They were cattle ranchers. Now, during the summer, they had a permit to allow their cattle and their herd to go graze the land, eat, and that took place in the Wind River Mountains. It was beautiful scenery, and it spread over 22,000 acres. So every week, Jared and Margie, they take the cattle up there to graze and just enjoy the ride and the scenery on the way. One day, that summer, they were riding their horses to go check on the cattle as they were grazing. And for some odd reason, her horse, it went berserk, I guess you could say. Out of nowhere, it just bucked. It's like it got scared, but of what? Who knows? So it started just trying to buck her off, and it said it would do this back and forth motion trying to get Margie off its back. Well, Margie did go flying through the air, and there was one other problem. One of her feet was still stuck in the stirrup. Now, all around them was very rocky terrain as well, so it's dangerous. She could hit something and it could kill her. Now, Margie did land, but like I said, her foot's still in the stirrup. And then the horse ended up dragging her. Now, Jared's watching all this, again, another situation where it happened so fast. So he goes after Margie, trying to help her. Here's a little quote from Margie. She said, "When a horse is dethroning you, there's no painless way to hit the ground." Now, Jared, as he's going towards Margie to help, he says and claims that time slowed down. He said it's like you imagine watching TV and you see like a replay in slow motion. That's what he was seeing and experiencing. And as it first started, the time slow down and everything, he thought, oh my gosh, what's happening? Am I seeing things? However, Margie, she experienced the very same phenomenon. She says, I felt as if I was being gently lowered. She didn't hit the ground. Kind of like the last story where you think she'd hit the ground and be severely injured. Nope. She said it was more like she was gently laid down as she fell off the horse. She didn't say it was like pillows like the last story, Jerry, but it was just like somebody was, laying down for a nap, I guess, is the way I picture it, but in slow motion. She said even as the horse began to drag her after she was on the ground, that too was like playing out in slow motion. All in all, Margie only had a very small little scratch on her elbow. That was it. Her and her husband, Jared, after she was safe, everything was good, and, she checked herself out, only that little scratch. They couldn't stop talking about it together. They were like, did you just see that? Did you just experience that? And they talked about it together. And they said that it was almost as if they were in another dimension as that was happening, as that time slowed down and all that. Bizarre, guys. Now, at the time of this story that I found it said several years had passed, and Margie, she can still describe to a T very clearly that day and all the happenings. Now she does time to time question like, who helped me? Was it an angel? What actually happened that day? But, whatever the answer might be, Margie certainly has never forgotten it. And one last quote from Margie. She says, "Now my faith bridges marvelous gaps where proof is no longer necessary." I liked all those mini stories. Those were kind of cool, kind of different, but a different aspect. It's like all of them fell in some way and time slowed. Like I said, I've never experienced anything like that, but wow. I believe their stories. What do you guys think? Do you think it was like guardian angels? God answering their prayers, or what do you think? I want to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. And if you like these kind of mysterious, true, miraculous stories, remember to like and subscribe. It really, really helps me. I'm just trying to grow, get the word out there. But most importantly, like I say in other past shows I've done, I want people to know there is a powerful God up there watching, and there are powerful angels as well that come to our rescue. I think it's amazing, and I think it, of course, is miraculous. I thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it, and I really hope and pray that all of you guys have a great week. See you next time.